I serve broccoli. You can get cotton candy content anywhere. Okay, that stuff is a dime a dozen and it's everywhere, and you cannot open TikTok without getting smacked in the face with some
feel good.
Yeah, it feels good, and it's and there's a hack and there's a trick and there's a thing, and I'm like, okay, well, I like self-respect better.
The job market has changed since the pandemic, and so have the rules.
What worked 3 years ago no longer works. There's so much more noise out there and so much contradictory advice.
We're here to help you cut past the noise and decode the new rules.
And to guide you to your next opportunity. We're going to give you our shared expertise and help you figure out how to make the most of this post-pandemic talent market.
So join us on this journey if you're open to work.
James, hello.
Hello again. And I'm so excited about today's guest. We have got a talent celebrity with us today. The one, the only, Amy Miller has agreed to chat to us. And I'm so excited because Amy and I have been internet friends for a while, but this is actually our first time chatting live. This is the reveal. We didn't know what each other really looked like until today. Amy, we are opening each one of these special guest episodes the same way. What we really want to do is have listeners hear as many different talent leaders, people that we respect, model answers to questions that come up so frequently during the interview. And probably in 95% of interviews, the first question is, tell us about yourself. And so please, Amy, in 2 minutes or less, tell us about yourself.
This is not the hard launch of our friendship I expected, James, just so you know.
I'm sorry. I'm going to fly to Seattle and make it right.
No, I know. Yeah, go on. No, and I understand why we asked this question. So I'm going to give you a real answer. Like if I was answering in an interview, if James was interviewing me to be a senior recruiter on his team, this is what I would tell James. Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more and tell you a little bit more about myself. Most importantly, I've been in recruiting for over 10 years. You don't need to know how long. And the last decade has been on the corporate side, specifically in big tech. So I've worked for a handful of big names, but I've also done some really cool startup type work in my current role, which is a really nice blend of kind of that large company, big tech experience, but we're really doing some incredibly niche things and working on some really hard to find roles. And just like every time I get a new rec, James, I have to Google it because I don't know what that word means most of the time. So it's been a really exciting couple of years. And so that's my focus right now is I'm building teams that build satellites, and it's a lot of fun.
Love it. Matt, what do you think?
I think lots of recruiters do really believe that this is not a good question. But I sort of do feel it is open goal, right? Like you can really lean into any sort of confirmation bias that's going to be sitting with you through the rest of the interview. And it's an opportunity to wow someone in the first kind of 2 minutes and really speak to some of the like very specific kind of exciting parts of your background. Mm-hmm. And here's a question for you, Amy. Would you customize your intro based on the role and the persona you were playing off against? Or do you generally keep it the same?
Yeah, 100%. If I'm interviewing for another big tech company, I'm going to focus on that side of it, right? That part of my experience, having worked for a few of those giants. If I'm interviewing for a startup, I'm going to really dig into, and thankfully I've got, small company as well as my current team being such a small little startup within a big company kind of experience. So yeah, I'm definitely going to modify my pitch, my resume, my intro, my everything to the role that I'm interviewing for. Like we are multifaceted, right? We can do a lot of things. We've done a lot of things, but the value that we can bring in an interview is really teasing out the highlights and the important data that the person on the other end wants to learn about. They don't necessarily care. A startup doesn't necessarily care about the hundreds of software engineers I hired from Microsoft. That is not going to be as interesting to them unless they're trying to compete with that. Then it could be interesting. So it's really like understanding what is this role solving for actually? But I think really modifying it to the audience is so important because we ask these questions wanting to hear answers that resonate with us. And so it's your job as the interviewee to give the data that speaks to us.
So Alderson James are one of the leading people and talent agencies Since 2013, they've been responsible for over 1,000 people in talent hires, including one in a company that I used to work at. They helped me hire my head of technology TA. So I know the guys there pretty well. They've been responsible for scaling some of the most innovative companies in the UK and the EU. Also recently just launched in the US. So even folks in your neck of the woods now, James, can get involved for contingent, retained, and executive search. And they also now do embedded through AJX. So they can do it all.
So, Amy, we are genuinely so excited to have you on the show because you are not just one of the most, if not the most trusted voice in the talent market space, but you also have a huge following. And normally it's either one or the other. There are lots of people that talk about the hiring space and talk about talent that have, maybe approaching the followership that you have. But those people are rarely, if ever, trusted by recruiters and talent leaders. And you're the one person that's in the middle of the Venn diagram that has a huge public following, but also has the respect of the industry. And I just think it's phenomenal that you've been able to build such a following without leaning into any of the things that normally build the following, i.e., you don't do clickbait, you don't do rage bait, you just tell the unvarnished truth about how the hiring process works, even when that isn't what people want to hear. And over time, you've built a huge following. So can you just share with us, A, why you even started, and B, why you've kept going, right? You've been at this for a while now.
I ask myself those questions every day, James.
Why, Amy? Why?
Why do you do this to yourself? I think it started as like, I grew up in recruiting. I got into recruiting when I was 24, 25, something like that, very young. Didn't go to college, didn't have any, had no career path, right? Didn't know what I was doing. Stumbled into recruiting like so many of us do back in the 90s. And I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. I had to fall down a lot, pick myself back up a lot, find mentors, beg for scraps from the big kids table, right? All those things. And once I got some experience under my belt, I was like, you know who else needs to hear this? Everybody. And so it kind of started as let me be the recruiter that I needed when I was early in career. And then even more so, if you're not in recruiting, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And I get that. So my goal was to just try to just peel back the curtain a little bit, right? If we can just remove the mystery and if we can just be transparent, I want people to know how to ask the right questions. I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to have all the answers because as we all know, every single company is going to have their own policies, procedures, perspectives, best practices. Every recruiter within those policies and procedures is going to have their own way of working. So I cannot give you a roadmap, but I can give you enough of an understanding that you can sanity check for yourself. Does this make sense? Does this work? Should I try this? Maybe I should try that. And so for me, it's all about helping people ask the right questions. But the driver is because I want people to have the resources that I did not have. That's it. It's that simple. I'm just good karma, paying it forward, whatever you want to call it. I just want to be the guide path for people.
And it's amazing that you do that and that you continue to do it. And, I know from my own journey over this past year of investing time into LinkedIn and to other social media platforms, how much effort it takes and how much resilience it takes. So talk to us a little bit about why you keep doing it, because it's hard. It's hard, and it's often thankless.
So I do have this shop, recruitinginyogapants.com, shameless plug. But I do have a shop where I sell funny t-shirts, mugs, hats, you name it. Just a little of everything. It's a print on demand service. So when you order something, that's when they go and make it, right? So I don't have inventory or anything. I've not invested anything other than my time and of course my money to pay for the website. And then I also have my YouTube channel, which is monetized. And I have made so far in the 4.5, almost 5 years I've had the channel, hold on to your hats. You're not going to believe how much money I've made. I think it's like just slightly over $2,000 in 4.5 years. So you can imagine. I mean, it pays pennies. And so I made a commitment when I first launched the channel and the merchandise that I actually donate the proceeds, because they're just minimal and my tax lady thanks me for it. But I donate the proceeds to an animal shelter because I'm a huge dog lover. I think everybody knows that about me. If you think of Amy Miller, you think of robots, ATSs, and dogs.
So speaking about the underdog, when did you feel your kind of content move not necessarily away, but start to incorporate much more candidate centricity?
Yeah, so I think probably when I started the YouTube channel, I think that was kind of the first big pivot. So I'd been blogging for years, as we already talked about. I think I started blogging back in 2010 or something. So it's been a while. And then I eventually moved, and I was actually recruiting for YouTube at the time. So I kind of have a soft spot for YouTube because when I was at Google, that was my client. I focused exclusively on engineering managers for YouTube. And so I kind of got like that inside view and all the work and all the effort and the community team and the trust and safety team. And I just kind of like really got to know YouTube from the inside. So that's what made me start the channel. I'm like, I can throw up a 5-minute video once a week. This will be fun. And now I don't want to say it doesn't exist because it could just be my ignorance of this kind of content. I struggled though myself to find content that felt job seeker focused and transparent. I found a lot of content that was teasers for you to buy something.
1,000,000%.
I found a lot of content that was written from just a more of a marketing perspective. And I didn't want to do that. Because to your point, James, I thankfully, knock on wood, in this market, I'm still gainfully employed and able to pay my mortgage quite easily with my current income. And I'm happy about that. Now, if I get laid off, we'll have a different conversation. But for now, I have the luxury of not selling anything. And since I'm not selling anything, I don't care if you're buying. I'm here for the people who genuinely want and need the support and are willing to take the advice. And if you're not, makes no difference to me. I make the same amount of money whether you watch or not.
And this is the thing that I just can't understand with the creator landscape.
Yeah.
You produce high quality, insightful content from a position of true authority and from a place of really good heart. And it just gets eclipsed by the clickbait of people that don't know what they're talking about, that want to sell stuff. And I really wish we could fix the algorithm from inside. Do you know what I mean? Like that I find a little bit dispiriting. And I don't know how you've kept going for so long battling against that,
I get just enough positive feedback that it keeps me going. If you want to say something nice about me publicly, please go do that. I would love it. But I'm not going to use your private messages for my own public content. But I get enough of those that it makes me happy. And it makes me realize that it may only be 1 in 1,000, but it is resonating and it is working with at least that one guy. At least that one woman benefited, at least that one person got something out of it. And so that's it. And when I'm feeling bad about it, I have a feel good folder in Outlook. I learned this from Katrina Kivin, and I'll just pull up those messages and read them to myself.
When I see someone on TikTok or whatever getting 1 million views for saying, here's how you game an ATS to, screening skills thingamajig or whatever, their new stack ranking system. And I'm like, that got 1 million views. We have to keep going. We have to try and put out content that is right. Otherwise, they win. And that was like something that really, deeply kind of galvanized me to keep going with this.
I at least have the pleasure of knowing that I was honest and transparent and doing the right thing, even if people didn't want it. And so, James, I think you said something early in the episode about, telling people what they need to hear, even if they don't want to. I serve broccoli. You can get cotton candy content anywhere. Okay, that stuff is a dime a dozen and it's everywhere, and you cannot open TikTok without getting smacked in the face with some, goofy
Feel
whatever.
good.
They say crazy stuff. Yeah,
Magic
it feels
beans,
good,
right.
and it's and there's a hack, and there's a trick, and there's a thing, and I'm like, okay, well, I like self-respect better personally. For me, I just want to put the truth out there. And here's the thing. Here's the thing we don't say out loud, and I'm going to say it. When my candidates follow my advice, do you know how much easier my job is?
Oh, right. There is some self-serving there, right? Like
A little bit. Getting bigger and bigger as we go. But I do get a lot of like candidates. Once they get to an offer stage, that's typically when I will get involved. So when somebody is getting an offer or their, final interviews, those kinds of things, that's when they meet me. And a lot of times they're like, oh my God, Amy Miller, I've watched all your videos. I'm like, yes, this is going to be the easiest close.
yeah, so don't fight with me. This is how it's going to go.
They use my own scripts on me. It's hilarious, but I love it. And it just creates like, there's almost like this built-in trust already because they feel like they know me. They've watched my videos. They follow me on LinkedIn. They've seen, and they get on the phone with me and they're like, dang, she's exactly like she was publicly as she is in a one-on-one conversation with me. And, at my age, memory's starting to go. I can't have multiple personalities in this. Like, I gotta be the same person in all areas, right? Or I will forget, what did I say? So truth saves me because I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's true. So that's why I said it. But there is like that selfish part to your point, a little tongue in cheek. But when my candidates are following that guidance, whether it's doing the resume the right way, whether it's standing up the interview the right way, even the closing conversation, so much easier. So yeah, that's the selfish side. It makes my job easier when you listen to me.
You said earlier, sometimes the content that you make is in reaction to a myth or an inaccuracy about hiring, of which there is a ton. And it certainly feels like to me that the number of myths and the number of inaccuracies about what's happening in the talent market is magnifying.
Yeah.
What's your assessment on that dynamic? And what are some of the things you really want job seekers to hear as in the truth about the talent market? Yeah.
So I think it is very interesting to me. And I think, James, you and I bonded over one of these early on in our friendship. I think it's interesting that there are creators who have monetized their brand and they use that to sell something. So if I were to run around town and say I'm an ex-Google recruiter, you are going to, will be people who believe me just based on that alone. They're like, oh my God, she worked at Google. Like, never mind that it was 5 years ago and I was only there a year and a half. It's not that special. Lots of people have worked at Google over the years. But there are people who will use that as leverage to sell something. And I don't even use my company name ever, right? Because first of all, I may not work there by the time you watch that video, so it may not be relevant. But I also don't want that to be the hook. Like, I want you to listen to me because I'm giving you, again, helping you understand how to ask the right questions and have enough of a fundamental understanding of recruiting that you have a baseline from which to learn from. Okay, so that's one. Here's what I want job seekers or anyone else watching to take away. I want you to run everything you hear through this filter. If I take this person's advice, how does it benefit them? If I tell you, James, hey, make your resume clean, simple, drop the, charts and graphs and pictures, like just make it clean and simple. How does that benefit me? Doesn't really matter to me unless you're applying to my job. Doesn't matter. I have no skin in the game. I have absolutely nothing to sell you. I don't believe in resume templates. You're never going to get one of those from me. Like, there is nothing for me to gain by telling you that. So why would I tell you that? Versus, oh, well, you should make a resume like this and I can sell you the secret for $99. Who's benefiting? If you start from that simple premise, you are going to just cut out 90% of the noise immediately.
I think it's worth for transparency here to say that I do have a coaching business on the side of my posting. So I have monetized my LinkedIn to a small amount, but I have monetized it through offering coaching services in addition to all the content I give away for free and stuff like this. And we have sponsors, obviously, not that they're doing anything more than paying the bills. So I think there is an element of having to acknowledge that in this room that does happen. But I do really agree with you. I think it has to come from a really a place of, this is my knowledge center.
Absolutely.
If you don't if it doesn't align with your knowledge center, that's what your world belief, then that's kind of fine, and I'm okay. I'm not going to try and win your business.
Yeah.
It's a transparent, I want to help you, and my time is worth something. I'm not going to do it indefinitely for free, but I do want to help. But they're trying. I know what you're talking about, but I do think for the state of transparency, I do need to flag that there is an element of me monetizing my knowledge at the moment in the context of the recruiting and posting influencership landscape.
So I have some thoughts on that too. In fact, I have a coaches and resume writers section of my website. Maybe we can talk about getting you on there.
Love that.
Once we're connected, I'll add you to my recommended list. But here's my thoughts on that, because I do believe there is a time and a place and tremendous value in paid support. Now, what is the difference between paid support with Matthew or James versus watching Amy Miller's YouTube videos? My content is one-to-many. Again, my goal is to give you just enough to ask the right questions, and also to perhaps discover, hey, I really do need that next layer down. I really do need that personalized one-to-one. That's worth money. One-to-one, even one to a small group, is absolutely worth money. And this is where I would caution job seekers, make sure you understand what you're getting. I would assume, just having met you, but knowing you through James and us being besties already, Matthew, we're going to be friends after this. I'm going to go accept your request. But I would assume immediately that you are taking that time to personalize the advice, to personalize the coaching and the things specific to that person's needs. There's tremendous value in that. And again, it's easy for me to say as an employed person, but let me get laid off and see how quickly I start thinking about monetizing stuff. Okay. Just to be honest. So
how do you differentiate then? If you're speaking to our audience who are going to be likely candidates navigating this market where there's so much noise and a lot of it is selling, to your point, how do you evaluate a coach or purchasing a potential solution to help you?
So I think the first thing is you have to recognize where you're stuck. A lot of people have come to me complaining that they need resume help and they can't beat the ATS and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, let's dig in. Because I'll do I can do usually 1 to 2 a month. I'll do a pro bono coaching session. And I'll, start digging in, tell me about your job search, and then find out that they just had 7 or 8 interviews that didn't result in an offer. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought you had a problem with your resume. No. If you're getting interviews, the resume is not the problem. So you have to really do some self-inspection and understand, where am I blocked? Where in the funnel am I just not getting further? And it's usually not what you think it is. It's, we want to blame some, unseen, unheard bot or something that's not me. But if I'm not passing interviews, something's wrong with how I'm interviewing. Right. And so that's number one. You have to really inspect, where am I stuck? And then number 2, you should check out that person's content. Talk to people who've used coaches, get referrals from other people. Look at my list, if you will. Right. But I think that we can get distracted. Well, this person's got, 800,000 followers. They must be good. You can buy followers. I never have, but you can. So, you have to really look at, what is this person's success? I think the other flag for me when it comes to recruiting services in particular, anyone who guarantees anything, that is a immediate, I'm nervous immediately, because how can you guarantee anything? I could maybe give you your money back if you're not happy after 6 months or something, but I can't promise you anything. I can't guarantee anything. So that just sets off alarm bells for me immediately.
And while we are kind of talking about resume writing, I find it such an intriguing service offering. Anyone I think who's offering a resume writing service without meeting you and spending deep time with you is someone who I would question immediately. 9 times out of 10, resume writing comes down to your ability to tell your own story. And how you articulate that is such a journey of introspection and a journey of reflection of someone asking you the right questions and getting deep into some topics with you and really pushing you to get some answers that you maybe hadn't thought to go and get. And that's genuine coaching and guidance. If someone is not meeting you before offering you these services, really question whether or not they are the right person for you.
That's something I vetted very carefully when I created my list. And I wanted to make sure, okay, do you spend time with the person paying you? If you're farming it out to a resume writer on Fiverr, no, you're on the anti-list, okay? But a resume writer, a great resume writer, and this is where I disagree with a lot of my peers, because a lot of my peers is like, oh, if you don't have TA experience, you shouldn't be a resume writer. I'm going to challenge that, because I think a great resume writer does exactly what you said, Matthew. They're able to craft your story. This is all about storytelling and setting up the teaser trailer and writing for the audience, which, plot twist, is a recruiter or a hiring manager, not a robot. But a great writer knows how to do that wordsmithing. If I were seriously on the market, this is no lie, I have a list of top 3 that I would trust, and I would get quotes from all 3 of them because I would want help to write my own resume. I know my story really well. I think I'm a decent interviewer. I know I'm an excellent, even okayest recruiter. But I also recognize the market that I'm in and what I'm up against. And I would need like another set of eyes to come in and really finesse that and to tease out all the cool stuff that I've done and how to put that in the right language for a resume. So there is no shame in paying for support if you decide that's what you really need. I have absolutely no hesitation or reservation recommending paid support if it makes sense. But it's one of those things, you got to choose wisely. You got to really look at, again, if I take this person's advice, what is in it for them? Well, it could be money, right, is what's in it for them. But again, you're balancing the cost of that service with what you're getting, which is that intensive one-on-one support that is specific to you. And if you're being farmed out to like a third party or something, like that's just a flag for me. I'm hiring a resume writer that I know is actually the one writing my resume in partnership with me, not just churning out a document based on a template that was built 20 years ago.
And I think all of this kind of resonates with something that's central to our belief. And I think one of the reasons that your content resonates with me and so many other people is that you don't speak in absolutes, because there are so many variables in this, in that the talent marketplace is made up of millions and millions of individual sellers, job seekers, millions of individual buyers. And whilst there are practices and guides, there's no one way. Even inside the same company, things can happen differently. And that's why we always say, generally, this is what happens, but we can't say for sure, because human beings are involved, and human beings go off piste or do things differently. There's no absolutes in any of this.
I mean, so thanks so much, Amy. That was fantastic. I really, so many insights there. I think both around like the broader like influencer landscape, like your personal story, and also just some awesome tips for both recruiters out there who are listening, but then also candidates, and kind of understanding how to navigate this job market, which is really the kind of core goal of the Open to Work podcast. I think you've really helped so many people, both here, but then also in your own work. So I think from all of us in like the general job search community, of which I'm a part of that, thank you. Keep up the amazing work. Don't let the haters get you down, and hopefully that kind of keeps to buzzing you up, and that spike keeps you going. And not long may it continue, but long may you continue and putting your vibes out there into the world. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
and just
Amy.
as like a final plug, where can we find you?
Everything Amy Miller is at recruitingInYogaPants.com. Links to all of my social sites, my store, my blogs, my videos, everything is there.
If you want a t-shirt that says the world's okayest recruiter, that's where you get it.
That's where you get it. All proceeds go to feed puppies at the NOAA Center. So do something good for the animals.
Endorsed by the Open to Work podcast.
I think from James and I, you can find us in our usual places online, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Forbes at the moment. And as ever, like and subscribe. Like we here, and you've heard through these episodes that we are here to help, and we are here to help you navigate this market. And so every time, if you know somebody's going through like a job search process or is kind of really struggling in the job market or just wants to learn because they're thinking about their next job, this is going to help, we hope. And so please like and share, and thank you all for your time and listening.